This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hi, y'all, and welcome to Horsing Around. Saddle up and get ready to have a darn tootin', galloping good time as we trot out the show that's your ultimate horse source, of course. Find out how to use good old horse sense when it comes to breeding, feeding, training, and explaining. From practical tips on caring for your horse's health to advice on how to buy horse supplies, including bridles, halters, saddles, and more. So get ready to start horsing around with your host, horse expert and award-winning rider, Audrey Pavia. Howdy, Audrey.
Welcome to Horsing Around on Pet Life Radio. Thanks for joining us. This week we're going to talk about how to be a horse owner and be kind to the environment while saving money all at the same time. Those are two very timely issues these days. Our guest this week is Lucinda Dyer, author of Eco-Horsekeeping, Over 100 Budget-Friendly Ways You and Your Horse Can Save the Planet. Lucinda is going to give us tips on going green with horses. So we'll talk to Lucinda right after these messages.
Why the long face? I reckon Horsing Around will be back in the saddle right after we round up a few words from our sponsors.
It's DesignerPetSweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit DesignerPetSweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Your pets will stay warm for the winter and be runway ready. Large or small, we fit them all. DesignerPetSweaters.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
We know you're chomping at the bit to hear more horsing around. Well, we're back on the trail. So park yourself over yonder and set a spell. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome back to Horsing Around. I'm your host, Audrey Pavia, and today we are talking to Lucinda Dyer, author of Eco-Horsekeeping, Over 100 Budget-Friendly Ways You and Your Horse Can Save the Planet. Lucinda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure, happy to have you. Let's talk about the title of your book first. Over 100 budget-friendly ways you and your horse can save the planet. Do horses have that much opportunity to make an impact on the environment?
Surprisingly so. When we first started putting the book together, being budget-friendly hadn't really occurred to us. But the more we researched and the more we interviewed people, we realized that that was an unexpected and quite sizable bonus when it comes to eco-keeping.
If people aren't motivated to protect the environment, they're probably motivated to protect their pocketbook, if nothing else.
Absolutely. Fully both in these day and age.
So tell me how, first of all, we as horse owners do make an impact on the environment. What is it that we do that we kind of take for granted that can be harmful?
Well, I think water issues are one of the primary ones. I think you don't, when you think how nice to, take a hack and have my horse stand in the stream and poop in the stream. And, your horses often have paddocks that are up against a pond, a lake, a stream, and you don't really think of the impact the runoff is having. And what you're putting on that, are you putting fertilizer on, are you putting any sort of pesticides on? I think sometimes we believe that because we're out in the country and it's nature, we're doing everything naturally, and that's just not right.
Right. And then as far as being in the barn, what are some of the things that we do that cause a problem?
Well, I think that one of the things, another of those things that I was just sort of oblivious to is little things like where do you store, if you've got fly spray or pesticides, medications, don't put them in the feed room. Store them separately. Make sure that they are all used by their expiration date. Don't keep things past that. And don't throw, a quarter empty container of fly spray in the trash. It is hazardous waste. And all of that stuff needs to be disposed of properly. And most cities or counties will have a hazardous waste pickup day or someplace you can take that. So set it aside and dispose of it properly.
So let's go over a few of the ways horse owners can go green, like what we can do, like say, from the minute we walk out the door to to go take care of our horse, ride our horse, to when we're done putting them away? If maybe you could run through sort of scenario for us.
Well, one of the things, just as a rider, one of the things you can do is just not buy everything brand new. And I ran into a number of people that have had wonderful experiences with swap meets. They will get together with a bunch of their friends. They'll bring tack, saddle pads, breeches that don't fit any longer, things that are useful but just not to you, and you swap them. And nobody gets upset because they bought $100 worth of stuff and they only left with $12 worth. But it's a great way to get things recycled that, pale pink, breeches, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Right.
So that's one way. When you walk in, everything doesn't have to be new. You can go on Chronicle of the Horse. They have a giveaway section. They also have tack classifieds, eBay, Craigslist. Everything does not have to be new. The horse does not know that blanket once was on a gelding 2 counties over.
Right.
He's just thrilled to have it.
Yeah. So how does this help the environment? It reduces landfill, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah. I think the old mantra, reduce, reuse, and recycle, can certainly be something that all riders can do. Reducing with things like, simple things like don't take every horse catalog in the world. It's just, trees don't need to die for catalogs of horse jewelry. Simple things like, smart packs, which turns out to be one of the most environmentally friendly things you can do. Instead of everybody buying their big buckets.
Right. Explain to folks who may not know what Smart Pack is.
Smart Pack, one of the great inventions of the 20th century, I think, if you're a horse person. Instead of everybody buying, big buckets of supplements, Smart Pack allows you to choose exactly which supplements your horse needs, and they come in little, how would you describe it, little strips with little wells that say one well would have your, a vitamin, one would have, whatever supplement you're using. And they come in these little daily strips. So whoever is feeding in the barn that day, instead of saying, does that horse get 2 scoops or 1? Everything, you just rip the top off, everybody's supplements are ready to go. So that's one way, instead of buying, having everybody's just stacked everywhere. And it's also, they mail to the barn. So if 8 people at the barn all get Smart Packs, that means 8 people are not getting in 8 cars, making 8 trips to the feed store.
Right.
So you're out of your car in your, gently used clothing with your gently used saddle pad, walking into the barn. One issue is a lot of the products we use on horses, we just don't read the labels other than, fly spray, conditioner, shampoo. But you have to be very aware of what's in it, because when you're in that wash stall, and it's certain, although those suds are circling the drain, it's going into the water supply where you live. So it's really important to look at what's in there, and there's so many natural products out there nowadays. You don't have to. I will admit, I used to wash resin with ivory liquid. What can I say?
Right.
It was cheap. I bought it at Dollar General. It got it clean.
Right.
But you have to be cognizant of what's circling the drain.
Are they making natural shampoos for horses these days?
They are. Lots of people are. Epona's one of them that is. And it's just, the old joke about if you can't pronounce it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably not good for you.
It's probably not good for you. And, there are a lot of companies out there now that are really doing things that are biodegradable. Like the number one, if everybody doesn't know it by now, no plastic water bottles. Do not bring bottled water to the barn. Have a refillable bottle, and you can buy them everywhere nowadays. No more plastic water bottles. So
it's also not good for you as the person drinking it.
Oh, please. And I was one of those people that used to refill the plastic water bottles.
Yeah, me too.
Being so good. Oh, geez.
Me too.
What did we ingest?
Right. Every time you do that, a little more of the plastic breaks down and goes inside your body. Yep.
And in a nice warm, in the barn in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, not good for you.
A couple of things I found really interesting that people are doing these days. If you have an old, like polar fleece, we all do, polar fleece jacket or something like that that's just seen its day, any Patagonia store will take back that fleece and recycle it so it can have a new life. resole your boots. Ariat now has a partnership with a company. They will resole Ariat boots. You can donate your clothes to, the things you maybe don't fit in anymore, in my case. A local 4-H, the local pony club, the local handicap riding program. You need to, whatever gear you have on, you need to think, can that have a use after I am no longer in need of it?
Mm-hmm.
And dry cleaning. That dry cleaning smell on your show coat, that's a chemical called perc, and the EPA has labeled perc like toxic, really not good for people. So you need to find, and there are, even in the small town where I live, dry cleaners that use a perc alternative.
Okay.
But my number one, and this is not exactly on point, Horsey, sunscreen. I bought the best-selling, dermatologist-recommended sunscreen. I had no idea. Nobody'd really tested this stuff independently to see if it works. And how much of our lives as horse people do you spend out in the sun?
Yeah.
The Environmental Working Group tested something like 900 sunscreens. They've done it for the last couple of years. And there's a website called cosmeticsdatabase.com.
Okay.
And they rate sunscreens not only by, do they have ingredients in it you really don't want on your face, to do they work? Do they degrade quickly in the sun? And I found out what I was, wearing was, it was a pointless waste of money. So I think sunscreen, we all want one that works and won't. The Environmental Working Group their website also has, cosmetics, mascaras, shampoos, all of that. If you're really obsessive compulsive like I am, you can pile your equine, beauty products by your computer and go in and research the ingredients.
Right.
Which is, maybe a little over the top.
Well, no, I might do that too. I want my horse to be getting the healthy stuff too,
And look how often we bathe them, and particularly if you have a gray horse like I did, constantly covered in shampoo. So those are just some of my basic rider tips. Really, buy gently used if you can. Find another life for everything you own, because there's somebody out there that can put that old show jacket or those breeches to good use. Resole your boots and recycle your polar fleece. And if you in this day and age, if you're lucky enough to have some expendable income, Ariat and Carrots both have a line of organic cotton clothing.
Okay.
Very chic and trendy.
So once we get to the barn, what can we do there?
Let's talk about pests.
Okay.
I think, because we are getting into fly and insect season, aren't we? Have you ever used fly predators?
Absolutely. I do use them at my house, yeah.
Love them. I think everybody, it's such an easy way, sort of a basic, low-hanging fruit way to control flies in your barn. A couple of the other things I found out for insects, bats. If you don't have a bat house, you need to, because bats are your best friend.
And tell us why that is.
One little bat can eat about 1,000 mosquito-like insects in an evening. They are terrific. And there's an organization called Bat Conservation International. They're based in Austin, Texas. They have a fabulous website. They will even take calls from people. They have directions for making your own bat house, how to maintain it, where to place it. Anything you ever wanted to know about bats is on that site.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about how to control pests in the barn while going green, and specifically I want to get into fly sprays because that's something that we all deal with. And we'll be right back.
Why the long face? I reckon Horsing Around will be back in the saddle right after we round up a few words from our sponsors.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your cat tree tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
We know you're chomping at the bit to hear more horsing around. Well, we're back on the trail. So park yourself over yonder and set a spell. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Welcome back to Horsing Around. I'm your host, Audrey Pavia, and today we are talking to author Lucinda Dyer, who wrote Eco-Horsekeeping, over 100 budget-friendly ways you and your horse can save the planet. Lucinda, we're talking about pests and controlling pests in a way that's kind to the environment. We all use fly spray quite a bit, and I don't know if you see this as well, but I have tried to use some of the natural fly sprays. Some are better than others, but they don't seem to work as well as the really nasty, horrible chemicals. Is there something we can do to work around that?
That seems to be one of those things that, like DDT, worked really well, too. It's hazardous chemicals often do the best job. But when you think about it, how long does fly spray really last anyway?
That's true. I mean, even the nasty stuff, after half an hour, the flies are back.
The flies are back pretty much immediately. And I think that it's one of those things that was one of the first green things I did, even when I did nothing else, is I usually made up my own fly spray. One, it's so cheap because fly spray is expensive. When you add up what you spend on fly spray over a season, what seems to be, if you're just sort of, obsessive compulsive, about picking out stalls during the day and, just being uber clean, that does help with flies, much as we all don't like to admit that. But yeah, that's one of those things where I would say it may not work as well as the toxic stuff, but fly spray is just anything you have to dispose of at hazardous waste day, I really don't want on me or my horse.
Yeah. And when you put it on your horse, that fly spray, you inhale a whole bunch of it yourself.
Absolutely, and they reach their heads on their legs. There's a puddle, the barn dog, cat comes along and has a lap.
Yeah.
It's something we all take for granted, and we just should stop and take a breath.
I have a friend, I don't know if you've ever heard anything about this, but she uses natural fly spray, and she said that she kind of enhances its value by going to the health food store and buying an essential oil like lavender or another one that's known for repelling insects. There's a few different ones, but I know lavender is one. And we'll put a few drops of that in with the natural fly spray, and she said that helps it because one of the reasons I think some of the harsher chemical fly sprays work so well is because they're oil-based, and the oil makes it last longer on the horse. So by adding an essential oil, which is just a few drops, which is an oil as well, that can kind of give that quality to the natural horse spray.
Yeah, we have 2 recipes in the book for natural, and they both have essential oils in them.
Oh, okay.
The one from the Nice People at Dressage Today actually has lavender in it.
Okay, that's great. I hadn't noticed that when I read through the book, but that's good to know. So we can, if we get the book, we can go in there and get some recipes for making our own fly spray. I'm definitely going to check that out.
There are birds. The Audubon Society and I had a lovely chat about birds and flies. And barn swallows, which some people look at as just incredibly annoying and want them to go away.
Yeah.
One barn swallow, the Audubon Society said, can eat 850 flies, grasshoppers, dragonflies, or beetles in a day.
Wow. So what can you do to attract barn swallows?
Do we have to do anything? Don't they just come with the barn?
Well, I live in Southern California, and I think you know a little bit about what it's like keeping horses out here. And a lot of us don't have barns. We have stalls and, just pipe corrals and stuff like that. So for those of us who don't necessarily have a barn, I wonder if there's anything we can do to encourage, if not barn swallows, other types of birds that are insect eaters.
You should. The Audubon Society, your local Audubon Society, or bird people are passionate birders. They love to share information. If you ask around in your local community, somebody will know someone who belongs to the Audubon Society or is as they call themselves, a birder, who would be happy to share information with you.
Well, on the subject of birds, what do you think about using chickens for fly control?
I think if you live in an area where the coyotes don't have them for lunch, it's a great idea.
Well, I have a small flock in the suburban equine community where I live, and they're always in the stalls scratching around, picking up, fly, probably maggots, I'm guessing. Kind of gross to think about it, but
yeah.
So I think that actually our flies seem to be a little less this year. It's the first year we've had chickens. So between that and the fly predators.
Yeah, we all just reach for a jar or a can or a spray something. And you don't realize that nature has provided, natural predators for everything. No, guinea hens, I think, are a classic. Guinea hens and chickens. They love ticks, too.
Yeah, that's great. Ticks. If you have a barn dog or a barn cat, they'll eat the ticks, and then your dog and cat won't have them on them.
Yeah, the birds and the bats were some of the most surprising bits of information because I had not realized how extraordinarily effective they can be.
Mm-hmm. Once I kind of shudder at sometimes when I hear about the system where your horse gets squirted with fly spray every 20 minutes or whatever.
For just a few months, it was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I walked in, I'd get a blast.
Right.
And it went down on their hay and...
Yeah, and everything. Yeah, and unfortunately, it is a pretty effective way to keep the flies down, but you're just basically coating yourself and your horse with insecticide on a constant basis. Cannot be healthy.
How about good barn management, not letting the manure pile up?
Yeah.
I think those are just...
Yeah, those are all things that people just kind of do and don't think about, but we really need to be more aware.
That's the nice thing about being environmentally friendly. I mean, birds and bats don't cost you anything.
So basically, it's less expensive to go green, which is really, another motivation to try to protect the environment and be good to your horse and your own body while you're doing this. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Lucinda, I want to thank you for being my guest this week.
You are more than welcome, Audrey. It was a pleasure.
Well, it was great having you, and I want to encourage everyone to check out Lucinda's book. It's called Eco-Horsekeeping, Over 100 Budget-Friendly Ways You and Your Horse Can Save the Planet. So if you have any questions or comments about horsing around, please email me at audrey@petliferadio.com. Until next time, happy trails.
Stop what you're doing and start horsing around. Every week on Pet Life Radio, horse expert and award-winning writer Audrey Pavia will be trotting out great tips on feeding, breeding, and more on everything equestrian. So set a spell and say hey to Audrey and get ready for a darn tootin' galloping good time. Every week on Horsing Around, on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.